Okay, I apologize to everyone. We should be up and running now. So, okay, man, talk about technical difficulties, and we should be past this point, right, Madeline? That's on me. I apologize, everyone. So, I see that there are some hands already. We're so happy you're here. We're going to get started for real now that we are up and going. It looks like it's still not streaming for some reason, so give me one more moment.
How's it working?
Yeah, I think you need to update it.
Okay.
All right, so today we're here, you all know, to go over some visa information with you all. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to bring up our PowerPoint, and Madeline and I are going to get started. For real, we promise. All right, I apologize to everyone. We should be up and running now. Oops, sorry everyone. That's me. Okay, my YouTube was playing me back to me, but now we've got that figured out. All right, so today here we're going to talk about the visa session, setting up your visa appointment and getting all of that going. So we're going to walk you through some of the basics, including how to pay the SEVIS I-901 fee, how to then go ahead and schedule your visa interview, and finally, how you can prepare for your visa interview. Because preparing and knowing kind of what you're going to say is very important. Madeline, do you want to talk about some of the things that are on their I-20?
Yes, I would love to. So your I-20 is a really important document. I know everyone's familiar with their passport, and I know you guys are thinking about your visa as well, which will go inside of your passport. But the third most important document is your I-20. Your I-20 is issued by our school when you are admitted and you complete the I-20 request form and provide your bank documents and other financial documents showing that you are able to support yourself, or your family is able to support you while you are studying in the United States at our institution. So just some kind of important information and how to read your I-20. I'm going to go over that right now, because it's a lot of text on a piece of paper. So if you can see on the screen, there's a red circle at the top on the upper left-hand side. This is your SEVIS ID. Every student receives a SEVIS ID when their I-20 is issued, and most likely you will keep the same SEVIS ID throughout your academic career after you've arrived. So it's really good to know this number, maybe write it down somewhere, but obviously don't share it with a lot of other people because this is a private kind of number, but it's good to have it so that if you're asked what is your SEVIS number, you have it ready to present. Then if you look down on the second part, lower on the I-20 first page in the lower circle on the screen, this is your school information, including our school code. So it's a really long number because there are a lot of different schools in the US, so they have to have different identifying codes. This is one you'll want to utilize when you are filling out your DS-160 to indicate what school are you planning on going to. There's also more information on there. There will be remarks talking a little bit about you as a student in your initial I-20, and there will be a place on there where you need to sign at the bottom as well and give a date. Remember that this document is about you for you. And so please do not have anyone else sign or utilize this document. This is your document. So maybe someone can help explain about it, but please do not share this document with others. Did I miss any important information on that first page, Alyssa?
No, I don't think so. I think
Awesome.
just another reminder, like Madeline said, this is your I-20 and only your I-20. It should only ever be in your possession and no one else's. If alterations are ever made on the I-20 will immediately be canceled. So make sure that you're not making any changes or updates or going in to paint and putting things on top of it, because this will be a huge red flag to a visa officer and they will catch it and it will result in a visa denial. And like I said, if we find out and have evidence, we will cancel your I-20 immediately. We say this because we have heard about more fraudulent activity. Most of the time we know that it is not on the student, it's someone else has gotten the student's I-20 and altered it. So to make sure that this does not affect you, make sure you've always got that in your possession and no one else is holding that for you. I'll also just say, we're finishing up on our spring I-20s. So if you've requested your I-20 within the last week, we are working really diligently on them and you should get them very soon. So our turnaround rate the past month has been anywhere from 7 to 10 days. So it shouldn't be too long if you don't get it or if you haven't gotten it already. So you get your I-20, and then after that, you will pay your SEVIS I-901 fee. You cannot pay your SEVIS I-901 fee until you have an I-20. You will pay that SEVIS fee by going to fmjfee.com/I-901 fee. So you can see here, it's not a government website, it's a contracting agency, but fmjfee.com is the official website to pay your I-901 fee. The fee right now is $385, and this is valid for 12 months. So we really recommend that when you are paying your I-901 fee, you are using the SEVIS ID that you intend to enter the US on. Sometimes you get accepted at different places, you get multiple I-20s, and you are so excited to get your I-901 fee paid that you pay it with the first SEVIS ID that you get. I'm actually going to encourage you to think more strategically than that and figure out where is it that you want to go and use the SEVIS ID from that institution, because that will save you from having to transfer that SEVIS I-901 fee in the future. And that's something we cannot help you with. It is totally on you and it can be kind of frustrating. So that's why I ask that you think strategically and wait until you know where you intend to enroll before paying your I-901 fee. And just like that I-20, when you get your receipt for paying the I-901 fee, make sure that you keep it in a safe location, because you are going to need a copy of that I-901 fee at many places, including the visa interview. All right, Madeline, it's my turn to ask anything that you think.
No, I think you've covered it. Also, I know some students are deferring from fall as well. And so if you see in the box on the right-hand side there, it says the $385 payment is valid for 12 months. So if you paid your SEVIS fee within the past 12 months, but you weren't able to arrive because you didn't get a visa appointment, you can utilize the same SEVIS fee for spring enrollment as long as it's within that 12-month span.
Yes, so I know that everyone is already thinking strategically because $385 is a lot of money. So, waiting until you're sure where you want to actually enroll and then paying will be helpful in many ways.
Awesome. All right. So I'm going to talk about scheduling your visa interview. So like I was saying at the very beginning, this is very exciting and also kind of scary. There are lots of steps involved in the visa interview, and it's really important that you, the student, are a part of all the steps that are involved in applying for your visa. So what's the first step? You need to locate a U.S. embassy or consulate that's near you that processes F1 student visas. Not every consulate processes student visas, so you need to be aware of this. And so once you've located which embassy or consulate that you are planning to go to conduct your visa interview, you will need to complete the DS-160, which is the online non-immigrant visa application. This is an application that's online. You get a login. You can kind of work on your progress throughout it. And this is an application that any non-immigrant visa needs to do. So you may have seen it before for a different visa, but basically everything that you put in the application will be visible to visa officers. So as you're completing this, it's very important that you, the student, are the one completing this application, because the visa officer can ask you about anything that's inside that application. Sometimes what happens is a family member who really wants to help the student make sure everything is correct, they might take over and end up doing the application for the student. We really, really ask you to not do this. We want the student to be filling out the DS-160 visa application so that the student is aware of what information is inside that application and is prepared for the interview. That doesn't mean you can't have someone helping you. Of course you can, but make sure that you are looking at that screen and you are typing in that information as you fill it in. Connected to the DS-160, there is an additional fee, which is $160. It's kind of easy to remember because it's the DS-160. This fee is different than the SEVIS fee. So there's a visa processing fee, and that's what the consulate or embassy needs to be able to put that visa stamp inside your passport. It's their administrative fee. Bureaucracies work this way, so it's what you need to pay. The SEVIS fee, which Alyssa was talking about, is to keep your SEVIS record active in the United States. So you have two different fees working for two different purposes. Sometimes it gets a little confusing because it seems like there's so many fees, but that's why I want to explain what each fee goes to. And so basically, once you have filled out and submitted your application for your visa, you will be able to select a visa interview time that works for you. And this really varies from embassy to embassy on when that will be. So maybe if we want to continue with additional information on the next slide. Awesome.
And I just want to jump in really quickly. I do see that there are hands and some questions. We are going to wait until the end to answer those because a lot of the questions are typically answered in the presentation. So I just wanted to let you know, we're not ignoring you, but we're getting through the information. Sorry, Madeline, do you want to do the tips?
Sure, I'll continue. So some recommendations for your visa application or the DS-160. It's going to take you at least 90 minutes to complete the DS-160. Also, you're going to need a bunch of different documents with you while you are filling out that application. You will also need to submit a 2x2 photo of yourself that needs to fit the online photo requirements. This website is very tricky and finicky. So this may be one of the most difficult parts of the application, is getting them to accept your photo with the requirements. So make sure you've set enough time for you to experiment and see what they accept. Then in the photo I'm talking about is a passport photo. They will use this photo to put inside that visa stamp page in your passport eventually. There's additional information also in the DS-160 about your US point of contact. All right. This is a question that's asked again to any non-immigrant. And so sometimes for different visas, you have to provide a specific contact person. In your case, for F1 application, you want to choose do not know. You don't have a specific person who you will be using as your contact, but you do have an organization that you will be using, which is Minnesota State University, Mankato. Then for the relationship to you, you will list school official. This allows any of us who are DSOs, designated school officer, to be able to answer any questions that the consular officer may have, not just limited to Alyssa, for example. We want to have someone available for you at any moment in time. So that's why we don't list one single person. The US street address for the point of contact is Centennial Student Union 250. You need to write out each of those words. That's where our office is located. The city is Mankato. The state is Minnesota, MN, and the zip code is 56001. Our phone number you can see down there. That's our general international student office phone number. And then you probably have seen this email before, international@mnsu.edu. So I recommend you maybe take a photo of this so you have that contact information and be prepared to follow those instructions as you fill that part out of the DS-160.
And all of this information is also in our prepared DS-160 guide that is on our website for you all. There's like a purple button, you click it, and we have a whole guide that literally walks you through the DS-160. Again, Madeline said this, but when it says contact person, please put do not know. The person who has signed your I-20 is not necessarily the person who knows about your admission, who knows about the requirements for you to enter. They really only know if your finances meet the requirements to get an I-20 or not. So please do not put my name, please do not put Pam's name. If Olivia maybe signed it, don't put our names, because like Madeline said, we want to make sure that they will just contact our general line so that we can send it to the person that can help best. Another thing, a lot of times students email Pam Burke with their questions because Pam is amazing. She does all of our I-20 processing, but Pam does all of our I-20 processing. So when you send her constant emails, you're actually slowing down any I-20 processing that she can do. And she's not necessarily the person that can help you the most. So please do not send her questions that are outside of I-20 questions. Send those to the international at mnsu.edu email, please. All right. So, you know, in our office, we are working with over 2,000 accepted students, and we are very well aware of the visa conditions out there. We are in contact with many visa officers. We are constantly in communication with Education USA advisors. So we do know the reality of the situation. And we know that some of you may not be able to get a visa appointment by spring. The good news, they are getting back on track and visa appointments are being put out fairly often. So if you don't see an appointment today, that doesn't mean that in a couple of weeks, something may not pop up. They're putting more appointments out in smaller increments, usually every 2 to 3 weeks now. That being said, some of you do live in countries where they still do not have capacity, and you may have to request an expedited visa appointment. So in order to actually request it, you need to first do what's in this box, the one with the big yellow one. You need to pay your visa fee, so that $160. You need to complete your DS-160, and you need to select the earliest available appointment on the scheduling assistant. So even if that appointment says that it's for January 2025, you select it. You need to have an appointment booked. From there, depending on where you are located, either 60 days before your program start date or 90 days before your program start date. And it depends on your embassy location, so look at your embassy. But once you get to that point before your program start date, you can submit the emergency request or expedited request. What I want to let you each know, unfortunately, our government and embassies have not made this very easy for you all. Each embassy and consulate has a different process on how they are administrating expedited visa appointments. The timeline, as I mentioned, may also vary depending on the location that you plan on visiting. So to make sure that you have all of the accurate information, we recommend that you email the embassy or consulate that you wish to go to and ask what their process is. It may be stated on their website very clearly, which some of them do have that. It says, this is who you email, this is what we need, and give us this many days to process the request and get you an answer. Other embassies and consulates have no information on their website, and you need to send that email to ask and make that inquiry. If the embassy is working with US Travel Docs as one of their contracting agents, they have a pretty easy system in place and you should be able to figure it out easily. But again, that timeline may be slightly different depending on where you visit. So I apologize on behalf of our State Department. If I could change that and make all of our embassies and consulates have the same process so that it was easy for you and also easy for us to help you, I totally would. But unfortunately, they're not giving me the power to do that. I don't know why.
We also don't do individual letters as well.
Thank you. Yes, good point, Olivia. We do not provide letters that say that you need an emergency appointment or an expedited appointment. And here's why. We have spoken to many, many State Department officials, like not one, not two, like I'm talking 50, 60. All of them have told us that the consular officers are not looking at those letters. They don't do anything for you or for your case. The embassy wants to hear from you why it's important that you need an expedited visa interview. They don't want to hear why I think that you need one. So you can email us and request it, but I will tell you 99% of the time we will tell you no. Your I-20 is all the evidence that you need. Because your I-20, like Madeline showed you earlier on, it has the program start date, it has when you need to be here by, and it even has notes in there talking about when like the final arrival date is. So no letters, no bueno, but you can do it. We have faith in you. You got accepted to MSU. You can do anything. Right, Madeline?
That's absolutely right. So now that you've scheduled your visa interview, and hopefully we're hoping that it's not one of those emergency requests that you have to go through, then you have to think about preparing for your visa interview. And yes, you should prepare. So preparation begins pretty much as soon as you have scheduled that interview, meaning I got to get my documents together. I need to come up with a plan of traveling to the embassy, especially if you don't live in the capital city where the embassy is, or in a different city where the consulate is. And also, where are you going to stay? How are you going to arrive there that day? What are your transportation plans? So there's a lot of planning into this very important interview. And also we highly recommend doing some practice interviews with one of our student staff who have gone through this process before, and they can coach you on some of the better ways to answer questions and be prepared to answer questions in the visa interview. So, looking at a list of all the documents you need to bring to the interview physically in your hand in a special folder that you have all organized and in order, and you know what's in that folder. The first thing you need to bring is your I-20, which is that document we looked at before, which our school issues to you that has your program start date, what major you're planning on doing. It shows your proof of being able to have your financial support for the costs of tuition and living in the United States. That document is so important. You must have it printed out and signed and bring to your interview. Do not bring it on your phone. You must print it out. The next thing is your passport. This is obvious, but you do want to have your passport validity at least 6 months. So if you know your passport is going to expire within 6 months, you need to get that passport renewed so that you have a brand new passport for this process. The third thing you need is the receipt, physically copy of the receipt in paper of paying your SEVIS fee, which is that $385 fee. Fourth thing you need is your visa application payment receipt. So this is after you've submitted your DS-160, you'll get a page that shows that you have paid that $160 fee. Please bring proof of that printed out. You will need to bring a photo for your visa if for some reason the photo that you tried to upload in the DS-160 online application does not work. Please refer to the website and the instructions on the website for what kind of photo you need. It must be a very specific size and type. There are very, very specific requirements for what the photo needs to look like. This varies from country to country, so you need to go with what the US government is asking you to provide, not what's normal in your country. The next thing you'll also need is your admission letter, which is very fun, and maybe you have it framed on your wall because it's so awesome, but you will need to bring that admission letter as well to your interview.
You better have it framed on your wall.
I know, I would. So the admission letter is just additional proof that you have been accepted to our school and you are planning on moving forward with your visa application and your intent to come to the United States to study at our school. The bank statement and financial affidavit, which you had to provide both to our school and as a part of your DS-160, is also something you should bring. It should be as up to date as possible. You'll want to bring your academic transcripts from your high school or another college or university. You will also want to bring English proficiency examination results if that is applicable in your case. And then finally, the most tricky piece is documentation of ties to your home country. This is something we're going to talk about in a few minutes. It is the most difficult and confusing part of the visa interview. Because you are applying for a non-immigrant visa, you must demonstrate intent to return to your home country after you have completed your degree. What does this look like? It looks very different from case to case. However, there are some general rules of thumb. One may be showing that you have a job waiting for you back home, maybe with your family's business. Another could be some kind of connection to your family in some way. If you are responsible for any others in your family, that could be an example of this. You could also bring any kind of ideas that you have for the future about, oh, I'm planning on working in this sector. Here's some contacts I've made. Any kind of physical evidence that you can bring to that interview can be helpful in demonstrating your ties to your home country and your intent to return after you're finished with your degree. Do we want to continue talking about that on the next slide? Maybe I'm guessing it will be there. Cool.
Yep. So as Madeline mentioned, we highly recommend that you schedule a visa prep session with one of our students. It's just nice because you can hear about someone's true experience with the process, and you will also get a lot of tips that they have learned from us. So all of those students do go through a pretty comprehensive training on all of this. So you can schedule that by going to link.mnsu.edu/visa prep. You can see it here on the bottom. Another resource that we do recommend is Argo Visa, which is a consulting firm, which was founded by past visa consular officers. So they're going to be able to tell you real, very specific information about the process. They have a lot of free resources on YouTube. So if you go to youtube.com/c/argosocial, you will see many free videos, including at least 2 on if you've been denied once, things that they recommend you do before your second interview, if you choose to do that. For some students, when they contact us and they have a very complicated situation, for example, maybe they've been denied a visa 3 or more times, maybe they're having some issues with like a program or even their own government. We do recommend at those times that students maybe pay for a consulting hour with the Argo Visa company. It's very expensive, so we only recommend that in the most complicated situations because it's about $500 for a 30-minute or maybe a 60-minute consultation. So we recommend trying their free resources, and then if things proceed and it gets complicated, you may want to look into scheduling with them. The U.S. Department of State, of course, they're going to have good information at any place that you're actually applying to. But then NAFSA, which is the Association for International Educators, they have a lot of great tips out there for you. And this is a really good resource because it is people who are in the same position as Madeline and me and Olivia from all over the United States coming together to create these resources for you. So you're really getting like the brainchild of many individuals who have successfully helped thousands of students get to the United States for their education. We do have some other resources on our website. So the one thing I will just say and remind you all is read the website. Most of your questions will be answered on our website, but you need to read it. So I recommend checking there as well. And I know Lynn has to go in a few minutes, so I'm going to let her do all the talking until she has to go.
Awesome. So this is a continuation of preparing. I hope you're getting in the mood to be ready to prepare for several weeks leading up to your interview. It's a big deal, and we're here to support you in that. And I just want you to take it very seriously and kind of see this as your first step in moving towards your education in a different country. So really, this all rests on you. You are the student, and you can totally do it. You just need to put the time in and really think strategically, as Alyssa's been saying, about anticipating what might I need next and why are things working the way they are. The more you can get into that mindset of thinking into how the process works, the more prepared you will be at the interview. So, some examples of questions that may be asked during your visa interview are the 5 below. Many students are very surprised with how brief the interviews are. Most likely, when you enter the embassy, you will have to provide your passport and information. You'll have to go through some kind of security to get there. There will be a lot of people inside waiting to have their interviews for maybe your same F1 visa or maybe some other kind of visa. You will most likely be directed to a room where your visa type is getting their interviews done. It may also be mixed. So if you're looking around at other people and what are they answering and what are they talking about, it may not be relevant for what the information you need to provide. So really focus on your stuff. All interviews will be conducted in English. So I know this is more challenging for some of us than others, and this is really why having one of those preparation sessions with one of our students is very helpful, especially if you're concerned about understanding the visa officer and also using your English in that very high pressure situation. So the more you can practice, the better. Let's talk about these questions. So the first question is, why do you want to study in the US and at this university? It's very important that you answer this question honestly for you. Do not use some other person's answer for this question. You need to think about this question and come up with an answer that makes sense to you, that is true about you. Think about those reasons that got you interested in studying in the US in the first place. And also, why did you apply to MNSU? What were the programs that you're interested in? What about our university was interesting to you, or some reason that is going to be compelling for you? It's wise to focus on academic reasons and things that are specific to our university. Looking at the second question, this is related to the first question. What are your academic goals in the US? This is where you're going to talk about your major and why you want to study that major. Also, if you are planning on participating in some kind of group like research, doing something, any additional information that kind of backs up your interest in that major is helpful here. Number 3 is, what are your professional goals after finishing your program? This is one of those questions that is trying to tease an answer about your ties to your home country. This is where things will get kind of tricky. I recommend talking about how you will utilize your education in the United States to perhaps prepare you for a job in your home country, to maybe set you apart because of your English ability from studying abroad in the United States. It is also possible to say that you're interested in continuing your education in graduate school. Again, honest answers are really important for this kind of question. So do not utilize answers that someone told you to say. Think about what is true for you. Number 4, how will you pay for your education in the United States? This is where your financial sponsor comes into the picture. So you want to talk about those bank statements you have. Who is your financial sponsor? Maybe they will ask for that financial affidavit from your sponsor. This is where you kind of discuss that, yes, you do have the funds and you're aware of the costs that you will need to cover while you are in the US. Number 5, and I will probably just answer this quickly and pass it off to Olivia and Alyssa to give more information. Ties to your home country. What is your motivation to return after completing your education? It is very important that you have an answer prepared for this that makes sense, that is consistent with the other answers you have been providing in the interview. And so with that, I will pass it off to them to give some more information about this one. We wish that this could be more simple, but this truly is one of the most common reasons why student visas get denied, is because they do not have an appropriate answer for this question. So listen very carefully, take notes. And with that, I will pass it on to Alyssa and Olivia.
Thanks, Madeline. All right, Madeline has another meeting she has to get to, but we're so happy that she could join us today. So, see ya. Just going back to some of those things that Madeline was mentioning, the visa officer wants to hear from you. They don't want to hear the answer that your brother used to get his visa, or that your mom thinks might be the best, or an agent, or a teacher. The US Embassy wants to hear from you because you are actually the one who will be getting the visa. So I say that because visa officers know the trends. So if you're saying, that you want to do something because someone else has told you to say that, let's say you're working with an agent and the agent has said, this is what people are saying to make sure that they get their visa down. Visa officers meet with hundreds of students every week. They see these trends and they can tell when you're being genuine or not. So it's one of those items where, it's kind of like telling a lie to your mom. Like, your mom knows. Even if you think that she doesn't know that you're lying to her, she's your mom. She knows. That's how, right?
Yeah.
That's how visa officers are. Even if they don't call you on a lie, or they don't say that they know that this is an answer that's been provided to you, they know, and it affects their decision a lot. Because again, remember, they're meeting with hundreds of students every week. They see the trends, they hear the memorized speeches, and they can definitely tell when it's your work, your words, or someone else's.
Also, don't providing longer answers than you need to. Make sure to, as Madeline said and Alyssa said, clear and concise answers. Don't go on for 5 minutes. Don't rehearse a 5-minute speech.
Right.
Yeah, that's a big one.
Yeah. So if they're asking you, how will you fund your education? You could simply say, my father is sponsoring me. You do not need to go into, oh, my dad has these investments and he has property and he's also working here and all of that. You don't need to say that. You can simply say, my father is my sponsor. So you want to always answer the question, but you do not need to provide additional information. They'll ask follow-up questions if they want that. Yeah. All right. So on the day of your actual visa interview, you are going to go through a security checkpoint upon arrival at the embassy. This is a pretty standard and also sometimes intimidating process because there are no phones or technology allowed during your appointment. You're not even allowed to bring it into the embassy with you. Some embassies have locations where, like a locker that you can leave items in so that you can gather it after you are done with your interview. But not all embassies have that. So be sure to maybe check with someone who's gone to the embassy previously, or just come with minimal items. So if you need to check it in, it's not going to be as hard for them to store.
I have a question. And do I have to go in by myself? Could I have to go in by myself?
Yes, great question, Olivia. So if you are over 18, you are considered an adult, and therefore you will be going in by yourself. So I know that can also be kind of hard and scary, but truly, like, you'll be fine. It's good practice for when you actually have to travel to the United States. And the reason that I bring up, like, if you know that you can store things in the embassy, still go through your bag beforehand, check your pockets. Embarrassingly, I was actually at the embassy in Addis Ababa, Ethiopia, and I spent 10 minutes at security because both of the security officers and me could not figure out what was making the buzzer go off. And it turned out that I had one tiny USB slot from my mouse, the little toggle that you put in. Just the toggle part was in a pocket and I didn't catch it. And it took me 10 minutes with the embassy. They didn't let me through. They did not give me any leeway. Like, it was, you figure this out or you are not entering the embassy. So it's not only for those of you who are not US citizens. They do this to US citizens as well. If you have something like an inhaler that may have metal in it as well, you probably will want to tell them ahead of time so that they can remove it when they put it through the X-ray. So that comes to our second point right away. Arrive early. You never know. You might have a toggle in there that means your security check takes a lot longer than expected. Maybe there's a long line at the security desk. Maybe you forget something at home and you have to go back. So just be sure that you're ready to get there early. And remember that early in the United States means at least 15 to 20 minutes early. Dress for success. Are they expecting a suit and tie? No, you do not need to wear a suit and tie. You do not need to wear an evening gown. But you do need to go in looking nice, put together. And I always like to say, dress like you're going to visit your grandma. Like, when we go see grandma, like, maybe we're not getting all dressed up and looking amazing, but we're probably making sure that our shirt is tucked in, our hair is combed, our shirts don't have anything inappropriate on them. So think about that. Another way I could say is, if you are a church goer, maybe dress like you're going to church, since many of us do usually maybe dress more conservatively or professionally if and when we go to church. Any suggestions for that, Olivia?
No holy jeans. That was a big one too. Yeah.
Yeah.
And if you do the visa prep sessions, they go over that you get 3 sessions and they go over that session. Yeah.
We want to make sure that we're setting you up for success. And so no holes. Yeah. I know holy jeans are super cute and totally in style right now. Don't wear them though to the embassy. Wear jeans that have no holes. Unfortunately, first impressions are going to be a lot. So you want to show off that you are giving that right impression. Remember all of your documents. Have them organized in a fashion that you can pull them out quickly if you need to. Before you go, eat a good meal. You could be waiting in the embassy for several hours and there's no food. There's probably not going to be anywhere to buy a beverage. There might be a water fountain or bottled water, but again, that's by embassy. And It's important to remember that the interview is at a stand-up visa window. It almost feels like when you go to get your passport or your driver's license. So they are going to be behind a screen, behind a window. You will speak into a little bubble. And sometimes when we're not prepared for that sort of interaction, it can change how we go about answering questions. So just prepare for that. And finally, relax. Okay. This is a big deal. And I totally understand why everybody is nervous. There's a lot riding on this decision. But the best thing you can do before you go up to the visa window is take a deep breath, count to 10, and just remind yourself that you're going to do the best that you can and you're going to answer truthfully. And that's all you can do. Okay. So deep breath, count to 10, relax yourself a little bit because your visa interview is only going to be 2 to 3 minutes long. And if you go up to the window and you're already nervous, it's really hard to stay on track in those 2 to 3 minutes. So taking that deep breath, counting to 10, will allow your brain and your body to slow down so that when the officer asks you a question, you can answer calmly back, concisely, and most importantly, confidently. It's okay if you're nervous. It's okay if your voice wavers or if you're blushing because you're nervous.
Sweating.
If you're sweating a little because you're nervous, they get it. They know how much is riding on this interview. So don't worry about that stuff. Just stay calm as much as you can and be confident with your answers. And that, I'm a person, I turn bright red when I'm nervous. And so I've just realized that's what happens. It's totally fine. I'm going to keep going like it doesn't matter because it's really not a big deal.
You sweat. It's okay.
Yeah, it's fine. Just relax. Do you have any other tips that I missed?
No, I think those are the good ones. Like I said, like the visa pups are really, really good. They kind of, and they've been through it. That's the great part is these kids have been through it. They know how nerve-wracking it is. And a lot of them have been through it, not even once, twice. So they're able to walk you through what it might look like, what the two outcomes might be, what reapplying might look like, what anxiety might look like going into the second one.
Yeah,
They're great. I would highly recommend.
Yes. And that actually reminded me, if unfortunately you get an answer that you do not want, which is a rejection or a denial, don't argue with the officer, of course, but ask politely, can you please tell me the reason that you are denying my visa? And we help you with that in the visa prep sessions on how to request that. But if it's possible to get the reason in writing, that gives you a leg up for next time on exactly what you need to work on. So, and I will say, if you get denied the first time, it's okay. You can apply again. So remember, there's always a plan B. All right, we are getting to the end. I promise those technical difficulties did put us a little behind, so I apologize. And I do see that we have questions. We'll get to those in just a couple minutes here. So once you have your visa, then you get to start all the planning. So spring 2024 orientation is going to be awesome. We're very excited for it. We're hoping there's not a snowstorm this year. Last year there was a snowstorm. But orientation attendance is mandatory. So you have to be here. Orientation is January 3rd through the 5th, 2024. We highly recommend that you arrive on or before January 2nd, 2024, but you can arrive until the end of January 3rd. The first day, once you have your visa, The first day you may enter the US is December 4th, 2023. So that's not that far away. It's like, less than 2 months.
We'll be at midterms right now.
Actually, it's exactly 2 months from right now. So not long at all. So we're super excited to meet you at orientation. We have a huge group of peer mentors that are also very excited to meet you and want to help you out as much as they can. So yeah, it's going to be great. We just need everybody to get their visas. All right. We're going to answer your questions now. You're like, finally, come on. Awesome. All right, I got my visa with my fall 2023 I-20, but then I deferred my application to spring 2024. Is there any problem? Awesome question, Nail. No. This is awesome because yes, I'm not going to say there's a problem. There's not a problem. But before you try to enter the US, always double check that you have the appropriate program start date on your I-20. If you try to enter the United States with an I-20 that says your program start date is August 14th, 2023, and you're coming on December 10th, 2023, they're going to be like, hold up. What happened here? Why didn't you come in August? And best case scenario is they call our number at our office and the DSO explains that maybe you didn't get the updated I-20, but it's fine. They let you in. Worst case scenario is the CBP officer says, no, you cannot enter the United States, and then you need to return home. Often in those cases, you work with us, we get you an updated I-20, then you get to come back, but you've already spent that's an extra probably like $2,000 that you're going to end up spending on flights. So if you have a fall I-20 and you have deferred your application, please request your new I-20. We are monitoring this. So if we're seeing that someone got a visa after our program start date in August and they have not entered the US, we are trying to proactively send you an updated I-20. But we, again, are helping over 2,000 students and we can't catch everybody. So great question, Neil. I want to give you a big thumbs up and a sticker when you get here. Because it's a great question. Ask for an updated I-20, okay? Make the request, we'll get it processed for you.
And the next question too was, well, can I change my DS 160 information after I already submitted my form? That's a good question. The major one, with picking your major, we don't change the major on the DS 160 form until you get here. That's a big one we've been dealing with too.
Yeah, so it's pretty difficult to change information on your DS 160 because that is filed directly with the Department of State. So that's why we really recommend set aside 90 minutes, get all of your things together so that you can answer those questions right away. If there is a mistake on your DS 160, you can check with your local embassy where you plan to go and see how they can help you fix that error. Usually they'll help you. Otherwise, you can correct it when you go to the appointment. Does a visa officer know how many universities that you got accepted to? No, not unless you tell them. Here's why. Every university has their own system, and we do not report our acceptance or admission offers to the government at any time. The only time we're actually giving the government information on you is if you are asking us for an I-20 and you issue it. So if you've received multiple I-20s from multiple institutions, it's very likely that the visa officer will know that you've done that. Not guaranteed. But unless they ask you about it, there's really no need to bring it up. It's very common. You should be applying to multiple locations so that you know you're in the right fit. And that's why it's so important for you to be able to say very confidently why Minnesota State University is the place for you specifically, and not just Minnesota or Iowa or wherever.
Yeah.
Another big thing, remember, you're coming to the Minnesota State University, not the University of Minnesota. They're two separate institutions. And if you mix up our names, it's probably not going to be a good sign.
I read one from YouTube too. I'm applying as a third country national. How can I answer the question, why are you not applying from your home country?
Yeah. Okay, so it looks like you're already in another location studying, so you can definitely bring up that reason and say you wanted to study in your home country, but they did not have the program or needs that you wanted, so you came to this third location. Then, you realized that the education you were getting in that third location is not what you were expecting or desiring, and you're choosing to now come to the United States. And you can simply state that you didn't feel that you had time, or maybe, you didn't want to use that money to go home and then you wanted to save it for tuition. So just answer that question honestly. Exactly what happened. Keep it brief, concise, but honest. And it's fine. All right. Oh, cool. Someone got their new. Oh, it's Neil. I think we're going to be friends, Neil. And then you're going to tell me how to pronounce your name correctly when you get here. Awesome. I'm really happy you got that updated I-20. Again, if you have submitted the DS-160 and you think there might be some incorrect information on there, you should check with your embassy that you're applying to see how you can update that information. Unfortunately, there's nothing that we can do on our side to help you. Hello, can someone who has been admitted to fall 2024 change to spring 2024? No longer at this point are we accepting applications for spring 2024. That application deadline was September 1st. So we do recommend now that you just come in fall, in August. There'll be less snow, the weather will be warmer. So, it's a good time to start too. Is it possible for one to defer from spring semester to fall semester? Absolutely. What I will say is I always recommend to people to wait to defer until you absolutely know for sure that you will not be getting a visa appointment in time. While it doesn't take much to defer, it does cause confusion in your student record, and it just makes your SEVIS record look a little messy and hard to read. So we just ask that you wait until you are sure. And if you're like, nope, I'm 100% sure I'm not getting a visa appointment until February, and defer. Is there any problem if you change your passport prior to the interview? There shouldn't be. I can't say 100%, but there really shouldn't be. If I were you, I would just be sure to bring both of my passports with me to prove that you had a valid passport and that was the old information. So just bring both with and it should be fine. Okay. I'm an admitted student. When will I have to pay my tuition fees? Can I pay my first tuition fees after the semester is over? No. So you need to pay for your tuition fees within the first 30 days of the semester. If you do not do that, your account is placed on hold and you cannot register for further semesters until that payment has been completed. We do recommend that you travel to the United States ready to be able to pay about $3,000 within the first couple of days for your health insurance and some of those beginning tuition expenses. If you applied for your I-20 3 weeks ago and you haven't gotten any response, I highly recommend checking your junk folder. There is probably a notice in there about why you have not received your I-20. And that's for anyone, if it has been more than 10 business days. I know we say we process in 14 to 21, but our turnaround has been closer to 10. Then, check your junk mail. It's probably in there. If otherwise, send international@mnsu.edu an email and we'll check into it. Does MSU provide any food for free? So just because we're a little short here on time, I am going to keep some of these questions to answer at a different webinar. Because I do have a meeting in a few minutes and I have to run. We will be having a housing webinar coming up in about a month where we will talk about finding roommates. We'll also be getting a WhatsApp group chat up and running here in the next week. And then you can always talk to your new friends on there about that as well. Is the acceptance letter the same as the admission letter? That's a great question. Yep, exact same thing. You can call them acceptance letter, admission letter. We use them interchangeably. Does being above 25 for undergraduate studies affect your visa acceptance? It could. It could not. It really depends on the visa officer and how you are presenting your case. Why do you need to come to the United States? That's the number one question they're going to ask you and expect a good answer on, especially if you've already got a profession, if you already have a bachelor's degree, if you're doing well financially. They want to know, why do you want to come to the United States? It's like, seems like you have a good life. I'm not asking for an answer, and I'm not saying you need to prove that to me. But that is something you need to prove to a visa officer, and it can be harder when you are over 25. Yeah, but we have tons of students who were accepted this fall who were over 25. So it's not a game changer. Again, you just need to be able to really verbalize why you need to come to the United States. All right, I do see that there are some scholarship questions there. I apologize, but I do not have time to answer those today because we were focusing on visa information. We do have a scholarships page on our website that you can always go to and look at for more information on scholarships. But what I will say is the International Maverick Scholarship is really the main one. And any other scholarship funding is typically after you enroll at the university. So thank you, everybody. We just like zoomed through those questions at the end. And again, I apologize for technical difficulties. It happens. Sorry. Check our orientation website though. All of the other webinars are listed there. Put them in your calendar or come back and watch them later on and we'll answer all your questions. Otherwise, happy Wednesday, everybody. Whether it's evening or morning where you're at, we're halfway through.